This focus is called Give Me a Hand. The psalmist King David wrote about God. This is what he said. He said, God, he reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me up out of deep waters. Psalm 18, verse 16. Now that sounds familiar with what we're going to talk about next. Let's look at the Bible, the story of the Gospels. In Matthew chapter 14, Peter's one of Jesus' top guys. He's probably his top disciple. He was on the Sea of Galilee with his buddies. They're out in a boat. And then a nasty storm comes up. And they thought they were going to die. That had to be a scary storm. Many of Jesus' friends were fishermen, and boat travel was a common form of transportation. So it was not unusual for people to drown at sea. These guys were fishermen, and if they were scared, the sea had to be raging. Not only was the sea raging and the passengers scared, but all of a sudden, appearing in the waves seemed to be a ghost was visiting them on the water. The whole boat went into chaos. They were screaming and hollering, but the voice that came out of the seemingly scary phantom was reassuring. You know what I'm going to say now. It was Jesus. Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." Peter, in an inspired moment, asked Jesus to invite him out on the boat for a walk. Out on the boat for a walk. I wouldn't have done that. But here's Peter doing this. Hey, ask me to come out. Peter was invited. He said, "Come." Peter did well, at least for a few steps. Then what happened? You know what happened. He took his eyes off Jesus. And he started to what? Yeah, he started to sink. Poor Peter was truly scared. Now this is a tough fisherman, remember? I can only imagine that the storm and the experience of the first few steps on the water really terrified him, because he screamed, but he screamed something really smart. He screamed, "Jesus, save me." Now imagine how embarrassing it must have been for a seasoned sailor, a career fisherman, to ask for help from his leader. And a guy that's a carpenter. He's not even a sailor. I don't know about you, but I want my teachers and my coaches and the people that are above me to be impressed with me. You like that? Well done. Failing in front of those guys, the ones that have influenced you most, is extra bitter. If Peter was trying to impress Jesus by getting out of the boat, it was a failure. It ended up with Peter screaming for the master's help. Peter had his own pride, his own will, his own dignity. In the face of disaster, he was smart. He humbled himself. He made the smart choice. Peter could have been arrogant. He could have dug in his heels and said, "If I can't save myself, no one will." I know people like that. They think that type of self-sufficiency is dignified. Peter could have been paralyzed by the disgrace of his friends watching him plead for help. No. Or he could have rather drowned than be indebted to anybody, especially a leader like Jesus. But Peter chose correctly. Yeah. He grasped for air and in humility screamed for help. "Lord, save me!" All Peter's bravado, skills as a fisherman, and bold talk, and he had a lot of bold talk, could not save him. All he offered Jesus were the floundering hands of a drowning man. The scriptures record that Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Finally, Peter could have had second thoughts. He could have slapped Jesus' hands away and said, "No!" But he allows him to be caught. His master pulls him into the boat and reminds him that he was not impressed. You of little faith. Jesus is a tough coach. You don't get a participatory medal, even though Peter walked on water. He says, you of little faith. He didn't say no faith. He just said little faith. We need to put ourselves in Peter's humble position. When we realize that we are drowning and have no source within us to be saved, we will need someone else to rescue us. We need a Savior. Ask God for that gift of salvation through Christ. If you haven't done it, ask God for that gift. It's a free gift, and sometimes we're so self-sufficient we can't reach up our hands. But I encourage you, you're drowning. We all need that gift. Offer God the drowning hands, the floundering hands of a drowning man or woman. Reach out and take the Lord's nail-scarred hand and follow him. On reflection, is there anything keeping you from asking Christ, like Peter, to save you? Here's a prayer. It comes from the Psalms. You hold me in your right hand. You, Lord, guide me with your counsel. And afterwards, you will take me into glory. Sound familiar? William Booth once said, the greatness of a man's power is the measure of his surrender. Surrender yourself to God. Put your hand in his nail-scarred hand and ask for that salvation. Ready, set, go.
You're listening to Let's Focus, an inspirational podcast to help you train, coach, and compete to the max. This series of podcasts aims to biblically address many of the challenging themes that people in the world of sport encounter. This podcast encourages you to know and make known our Creator, or in other words, to have a total adventure with God. This is a Sports Outreach International production. You can find us on the web at sportsoutreach.com. That's sportsoutreach.com. Stay focused, ready, set, go.